Big data is on the minds of a lot of companies nowadays. They want to take advantage of data in their businesses, and there's no one better than a company called New Relic to help you sort of harness that data and make use of it in your application. So let's watch a video about New Relic, and we'll get this started.
New Relic is a software analytics company. We make sense of billions of metrics coming from millions of production software applications and distill that data into actual information that can help business people and technology people make great decisions. We serve data nerds. And what do we mean by that? We mean that basically this world is moving to an era where people use data to make better decisions. And we make it trivially easy to access the kind of data about your software to make your business successful. Well, I can't imagine a part of our lives that isn't impacted by software every day. Every kind of business, the way they interact with their customers is through software. And so if you're in business and you want to understand your customer, you need to see what they're doing with your software. And that's where New Relic comes in. We see the real customer interactions with the software systems that they use every day to interact with your business. We tell you if they're having a great experience, if they're coming back, what features they're using. We help you understand your customer to make a better business. New Relic does that on a massive scale. Over 80,000 companies use New Relic to make sure their software runs at peak performance and helps understand how their software behaves on a second-by-second basis. It's not enough for our software just to work. We got to evoke an emotional response from our customer, and a response of, that they love using our software and they can't wait to tell their friends about it. That's what motivates me and the team at New Relic to do the best work of our lives so that our customers can create amazing software.
So please welcome Lou CIRNE, the CEO of New Relic.
Thank you.
So Lou, at the tail end of that video, I saw something that said, "We're all data nerds." I think that's your theme or your slogan for the company, right? We're all data nerds, is that?
Absolutely right.
Okay, so speaking of data nerds, this is on your website right now. A friend of mine sent me this the other day when he was surfing over to the New Relic website. And I hear that it's not just the website. There's actually...
Good-looking website.
It is a great-looking website. I worry a little bit about the billboard version of this. I worry that that it might end up looking just like that. Not so far. I went and checked it out. It's not there yet, but that's my fear. That big blank canvas there might be asking for some artistic changes to it. So
we'll station 4 security
all
guards.
right, put some security dudes out there. All right, so I want to talk about New Relic and data and what that means to companies. I think when you say we're all data nerds, what I think you're really getting at is the idea that you want to democratize data. What does that mean? What does that mean to you? And what's your vision for New Relic?
Sure. Can I just get a level set first off? Can I get a show of hands? How many people are New Relic customers? A good number. That's great.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. That warms my heart. So most of you New Relic customers started out with New Relic trying to get visibility into your software, which is this complex beast that at runtime somehow tries to build web pages or deliver information to mobile customers, help people make better business decisions or delight your end customer. And we feel like the best way to deliver great software in production is with great data about what the software is doing. And it turns out that data is hard to gather, and it's even harder to present in a way that's easy to understand for thousands of people. We do that really well. In fact, we think we're far and away the market leader at doing that well. But what we learned along the way is that actually the data we're collecting is actually arguably the most important data for making business decisions in general, because the way I describe this is 15 years ago, if I interacted with my bank, that meant walking into a branch. Now when I interact with my bank, I do it by taking a picture of a check with my phone. And so my bank has now lost an ability to understand me as its customer if it's expecting to understand what the customer experience is by observing what's going on in the branch. Now they have to measure the software and the customer's experience to that software to understand if they're delighting that customer. And that's the data that we see already, because every minute we collect over 50 million events, almost 1 million events per second of actions going through software. Right. And we can help our customers understand what their customers are doing, and that'll help them make far better business decisions. So that's what we mean by it.
So a lot of people, though, they think of New Relic and immediately sort of think, oh, they do monitoring. They're the monitoring guys, right? But you've kind of enhanced that whole concept of data, not just on the dashboard that the DevOps engineer sees, but into a tool that almost anybody could use potentially to get data. I mean, you announced it when I was at your FutureStack conference late last year. You were kind of coming out of, or going into beta, coming out of beta, and that became your Insights product.
And that was announced as Rubicon. We showed the first public demonstration of that last October at the conference. You were there, and it just went GA last month actually, we think of that as a second act for New Relic, and the way to think about it is, from that monitoring perspective, in order to do good monitoring, we have to observe, for example, every click that goes through your application, and measure how long it takes for that click to turn into a page view, or for that to turn into a presentation of a screen on your mobile device. But as I say, that event is also an interesting business metric too. And the fact that we're capable of collecting that much data, and we're really good at making sense of a massive amount of data for our customers, really gives us that opportunity to not just help reduce downtime, which is important, but help people grow businesses, which is even more important.
Yeah, I saw an example of dashboards that you put together using that tool, and it was literally like you were querying in real time against this data flow, I mean, literally real time. And this, I think we've got a screenshot that you sent us of a dashboard.
Sure.
Tell us about this.
So this is a dashboard I created for myself, and I called it vanity metrics because they're impressive metrics, but and some of them are very important metrics about how our product itself is performing. So as I mentioned, we're collecting an enormous amount of performance data from our customers' applications, and then people can query that data in real time. And here's what's unique about this cloud database. There is no indexing. So every time you run a query, you can ask for us to inspect any attribute that we capture, and we will guarantee to do a lightning fast table scan, virtually a free table scan, that will give you an instant answer. And we do that with a massive parallel compute engine that we built from the ground up. And our median query response time is 9 milliseconds. And when I pulled up this dashboard, I think I did it on Saturday because you guys asked for a screenshot for today. And in that previous hour on that Saturday evening, the sum of all queries looked at 250 billion events. Wow. That's the real-time query performance. 95% of those queries came in at about 100 milliseconds, and we collected over 8 trillion events in the last month. We queried 8 trillion events over the last day. And we collected nearly 2 trillion events from the trailing 30 days. Wow. This is just massive scale. And it's all in the cloud, so our customers just log in and write a query, and they don't have to install anything. Why build a supercluster to answer your business questions, and we've done it for our customers already. And this isn't just for the engineers anymore. I mean, you could use this really in the marketing team or anywhere in the business. Absolutely, absolutely. It just so happens we got the most important starting data, which is the stuff going on in your applications and your software. Yeah. So lots of people are interested in how many people are logging into your site and what features they're using and who's coming back and how much they're spending. Right. That's more than just the developers. But we see an immense number of use cases. All event data really is a good fit for this product. Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's more and more, I guess, software nowadays is going to the web. I mean, this is where you specialize. It's kind of web-based or mobile software. And you yourself talk a lot about building quality software that people want to use. Yeah. Is this how you measure that quality? How do you compare yourself or benchmark yourself? Absolutely. Is that one attribute of it? At the end of the day, absent data, there's going to be just a million opinions on how we're doing on any kind of software initiative. And so I'm not, despite the fact that our brand is about data nerds, it's not that we worship at the altar of data and data alone. We just think data helps you make better human decisions. At the end of the day, the most important decisions you make are from gut feel, but if your gut feel is complemented by good data, you'll make better decisions. Like the most important decision you make might be who you hire, right? So that's not going to be spit out in Excel. But when you've got a difference of opinion on how you're doing with your software project, data can often drive alignment and get people collaborating, and that's what we think we do well. Okay, so speaking of driving people to collaborate and think about quality software, I think
one of the stories that I've been sort of tracking ever since I got a chance to go up to the White House and see it firsthand is sort of that, sort of the software that powered the new Healthcare.gov platform. So you guys were invited by the team that came to fix Healthcare.gov to come be a part of the repair, the mission to go repair it, the tech surge they call it, to come in. And your software, I got to go see firsthand your software on the dashboards on the wall. So I think it's a tremendous honor, number one, to be invited to go be a part of that. But what do you think? What do you think they learned by having your software in there? Did they give you feedback on that? I mean, I heard it, but I want maybe your perspective on this.
Well, it's worth spending a little more time on the context of the story because you and I had lunch at our Future Stack conference, and that was October 23rd. And that very morning, we got a call from Washington saying the White House needs help, stat. WH needs help, as I saw this little brief email from the Office of the CTO. And so we did. We said, look, let's not worry about what's in it for us. This is an opportunity to serve our country, no matter what your politics. We all have an interest in making this project successful. And so in the history of APM, this is the number one most important APM problem that I've ever heard of. People can't get healthcare. And so the good news was our product did exactly what we built it to do. Within 2 days of that conversation, which was a Sunday, people were looking at hundreds of people were looking at New Relic charts. And for the first time, again, well-intentioned people, capable people, you might have 200 people and 200 opinions as to what was wrong and what to do next. Now you had 2 or 3 opinions, and they were all good ones, driven by data, and people were knocking down problems. And you saw the response time go from 8 seconds to about 1.2 seconds in 30 days. You saw the error rate going from 6% to less than 1%. These were all backed up by a report issued by the Healthcare.gov team, and it was New Relic screenshots that they showed back it up. So you know, we were thrilled to play a part in it, and an important part in it. But what I'm most happy about was, you know, we're not a company with an army of consultants that go solve every customer's problem one at a time. We have to build a product that we expect to work for people when they need it. Right. Speed is of the essence, and in this case, we're delivering value within literally days of
the day I was there, I got to go behind the scenes and see the operations center because they felt like they were at a stage where they could sort of pull back the covers and show off a little bit, like how good they had progressed from the disaster day till kind of the pre-launch. And the day that I was there, they were having an outage, which is not what they wanted to show. But your software was literally on the dashboard, and they were pointing at it and talking about diagnosing the problem and where the problem was. And it was really something that actually did bring that whole team together. So it's very impressive. What do you think are the lessons then for other companies? I mean, not everybody is building an application of that scale or of that visibility. What are the lessons learned for most companies?
I think the main lesson to be learned is software is a complex living organism. If it happens to be stable at the current moment, that's no reason to feel like you can go without visibility. You're going to change your software. Something changes in your production environment a lot. If you're not changing your software on a regular basis, then your competitors are, and they're going to be out innovating you. And then you marry that with what happens on the internet and how usage patterns are totally unpredictable. And if you want to create a test suite that perfectly mimics the internet, well, that's a rather expensive thing to do, and I'd argue an impossible thing to build. So this isn't nice to have functionality. This is must-have functionality for any project that has any commercial value. You absolutely have to watch at a very deep level of granularity. And I feel like the mistake a lot of people make is, well, if my test passed, then I don't really need to look beyond CPU and network to know if I've got adequate visibility in production, and that's not the case.
Yeah. So basically, get that software instrumented early and get a good kind of baseline.
And get the team. And the other thing is get the various teams. Application success is a team sport. You can't say, oh, that's ops' responsibility, or that's development's responsibility, or the DBA's. You want everyone ideally looking at common tooling and certainly willing to communicate in common language, to take joint responsibility. I see the silos where developers throw stuff over the wall, say, look, my unit tests pass, someone else's problem, if, whether it works well in production. No, that the successful organizations, developers take responsibility for that application success in production in partnership with the operations team. And that, that takes good leadership and the right culture, but obviously great software plays an important role with that too.
Well, let's transition back to the idea of big data. That's the theme for the for the session. You guys are a big data company. You're capturing. We saw tons of events, and you're then querying those events. But you're also, with your Insights product, able to kind of again query any kind of data that's flowing through a web application. I think we had another screenshot. Let's make sure we. I don't know. Can we get that one up here? Tell us about this. This is a Twitter example.
This came out of, I was hacking with a couple of developers at our the New Relic internal developer conference a couple of weeks, just playing around with, if Insights can collect any event data, what could we do with that for fun? And we wrote about 70 lines of JavaScript in Node and ended up taking a 1% sample of the Twitter fire hose and throwing it into Insights. And then I spent another couple hours building some dashboards that allow you to slice and dice what's going on in the zeitgeist of Twitter right now. Now, it wasn't too long ago that companies built entire businesses on this type of software where you could look at the trend of how many people are tweeting about Justin Bieber in Pakistan or whatever. I've discovered far more about who are the tweens. Has anyone heard of Nash Greer? I never heard, but apparently when Nash Greer, who's this teenager who does videos, when he announced he had a new video, Twitter went fire. No one's talking about Gaza or Israel on Twitter. They're talking about One Direction.
One Direction, yeah, that's what my girls are talking about.
But anyway, so the point isn't that New Relic is going to be a Twitter analytics company. The point is, this was a 1-hour effort to build something that could surface this kind of insights. Now, what if this was doing something on your own data, right? If it was events flowing through your business.
At one of your conferences, cool. I think the guys from Nordstrom Rack, is that the name of the company? One of your customers? They were showing in a factory environment, because everybody on the floor, not a factory, distribution center, basically where they do the shipping and the picking and the pulling and putting it in boxes, they run web software to power that. And so they were using your app, your software, to basically understand the traffic flows and the patterns.
It was incredible. It was a brand new distribution center for a large e-commerce site, Nordstrom Rack. And they tracked inside Insights, every package going through every step of the process and knowing how many packages by department were getting packed, and then how many of them were going out by FedEx versus US Mail versus UPS or what have you. They identified that the most productive worker on the floor, who was that person? They're processing more packages per hour than anyone else, and that person was a temp. So like, hire that person. He shouldn't be a temp. But anyway, the point is, we were blown away by the use cases of this technology and the fact they could build those dashboards in no time was transformational to their business, and it went straight to the bottom line. So I think you're going to see more and more interesting applications built on top of our data platform that'll help people really make transformative business decisions.
Yeah. So I know that you are a software developer yourself, and I know we have some devs in the room. I mean, tell me what do you think that developers ought to know about CEOs, and what CEOs ought to know about developers, just for this kind of interesting mix that we have in the room today?
I will be a developer till the day I die, I hope. I'm going to be leaving on Saturday for, my goal is to spend as much of August writing code as possible. So I've already told my senior team to just manage the company for me while I go and try to build things. That's atypical for a CEO, but the fact that we are moving out beyond APM, which is a great market to be in, but now we're going into a 10 times larger opportunity with analytics, is kind of related to the fact that I went away and started building that a year and a half ago. I think that the lesson to learn is don't try to be someone you're not. When I ran my last company, Wiley, I was trying to be the prototypical CEO, and turns out I'm not very good at being a prototypical CEO, and so I ran into a wall, and we needed to hire a great CEO to lead the company, and I went over to the CTO role, and I had fun doing that. But I think when I got comfortable with, I'm not particularly strong at executive management review meetings or quarterly business review meetings or setting HR policy for this particular thing. So you hire people that are good at that love doing that, and then you can focus on where you can drive a lot of value. And for me, historically, it's been on creating things. So I want to keep creating things, and it makes me very happy, and I think it helps the company.
Yeah. Well, Lou, we only have 1 minute left, maybe 1.5 minutes. Is there anything that you can look out and kind of tell this audience what you sort of look at as big data? What's happening in big data? What are the exciting things that you're looking forward to?
Well, I think big data today reminds me kind of like where many big computing trends. Let's look at data processing in the early days. There was like 6 people who could write COBOL on the mainframe in the 70s, and they were the people that could process data. And then over time, simpler tools and the advent of high power, low cost computing made it so that anybody on a desktop with Excel could make a lot of the business decisions that 15 years ago could only be done by 7 COBOL programmers. Well, our goal is to, for big data, make it that if you need to answer a question that is dependent on analysis of billions of data points, you shouldn't have to be one of those 7 domain experts, that might be somebody who can write MapReduce jobs in Hadoop, for example. Anybody with a New Relic, product ought to be able to answer those kinds of questions too. So we want to do to big data what Excel did to the original data processing in the 80s and 90s.
So invest in companies that make data easy, right? Make it easy.
Make it easy, make it approachable, make everybody a data nerd.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Lou, for your time today. We appreciate it. Lou CIRNE, CEO of New Relic. Thank you very much.